welcome back to the channel from Small Things. My name is Sue and I'm a scrap quilter living in southeastern Pennsylvania. And before we get started on what I've been working on, I just want to thank everybody for all of your positive feedback about last week's video, where we took you along with us on a little tour of the exhibit called Oceans that was held locally at the Schwenkfelder Library. I'm glad everybody enjoyed it because it really is a special little gem in this town, and I realize how lucky we are to get to see an exhibit like that, especially since this is the only place in the country that that exhibit will travel to. Most of the traveling, I believe, is done in Europe. It is from a European contest. So again, thank you everybody for such lovely comments about the Oceans exhibit. This week, on the door behind me, you can see I have a memory quilt that is completed for my friend Shannon. These are from the shirts from her husband, who had passed away in November. So the quilt is finished now, and I'm planning to get together with her in a few days to have lunch, and I can give her the pillows and the quilt. And so I'll take this off of the door then, and we'll get a closer look on that, and we'll get a closer look at how I handled closing up the backs of the pillows too. And I finished the memory quilt for my friend Shannon, and I'm really happy with how it looks and how it feels, the drape of it. I originally wanted to put a white flannel sheet on the back of this. Right now it has a gray flannel on the back, which is, it's fine. I don't know, you kind of get something in your mind, kind of get stuck on that. But the white, I couldn't tell if maybe there was a little bit of discoloration in places or not. If there is something there, it's very minimal, it's very slight, but I just wasn't 100% sure. So that's why I went with the gray, because I know the gray was fine. And I didn't want to give her something that later on in a certain light, didn't look right. So, I went with a gray, so it's nice and cuddly on the back. It's nice and soft. So here it is. And this binding too, I think is perfect for this quilt. I think she's really gonna like it. And I'm going to have lunch with her in a few days, and I will be able to gift this to her. And in the previous episodes where I was working on this, you can see, or maybe you remember, that I was talking about how the back of some of these pillows I felt needed a little something more secure. They were kind of a little more open in the back here because I was running out of fabric. These are 20-inch pillows, so I needed a lot of fabric. So this one, I put a button on it, and this little piece here is a leftover piece of binding that I had that I just folded in half. So I think this button, is perfect for this pillow. So this really serves its purpose. It holds it closed very nicely. This one wasn't that bad as far as the opening goes. This one, out of the 3 pillows, this one had the biggest opening on the back. And so one single button was not going to hold it. It does have an overlap here on the side, but it just isn't a big enough overlap. Again, I just didn't have enough of, this is the back of the shirt, that's what I had. So this one, I put a little bit of Velcro in so that it could stretch wider across here and hold it closed much better. And I think it really did the job on that. I think that looks really good. One of the things I've been working on, mainly, I've been spending a lot of time on this one, is my blue triangles quilt. This is what one block will look like. I have, this whole pile is done. It has sashing in between each individual block, and then I'm also going to put sashing in between all of these 4 patch blocks then too. So this stack is done. This stack here, I have all of the blocks made, and I have the sashing in between all of them. I have the outer sashing with the cornerstones made for all of these, but I couldn't attach them yet because if you've been following, you'll see I've been teaching CJ, my son-in-law, how to quilt, and as part of his lessons I sent him home with a rotary cutter, a little cutting mat, and a ruler. And this is the ruler that I sent him home with so he could continue to work on his project. And I need this ruler to square up these blocks. So I had squared up these previously, then I gave this ruler to CJ. So I was not able to square these up, and I want these all to be nice and square before I finish adding my sashing. So it'll get one side of just the white sashing, and then the other side will have the yellow cornerstones on it. So I have quite a few blocks here to square up, but the squaring up goes pretty quickly. I have about, let's see, that's 34 blocks here that need to be squared up. And so these are my sashing pieces then. And then once the sashing is on, then I can start connecting them together. I'll lay them out on the floor to make sure kind of my darks and lights are evenly distributed. So I got a lot done. This was a lot of triangles to make, a lot of dog ears to clip off. Just one second, I'll show you my dog ears. My sister gave me this jar when she first discovered I was making videos, because in the very beginning I talked about how I like to cut off dog ears and I like to take the paper off the back when I make my half square triangles. So she sent me this, and she had a big label around it that said it was for dog ears. So I showed her how much I'm collecting, and she said, oh, that was just for a joke. But I still think they look neat. I like to see them all together. So I took the paper off, and I think I might actually find like a prettier jar. Our local thrift store too, I was thinking, will probably have like a pretty flower vase or something that's clear glass. So I thought that these would look pretty in that. So these are all the dog ears just from this one quilt project so far. I think that's pretty many. So I've had some fun afternoons tearing paper off too, and then sewing lots of 4 patches with the blues. When I do projects like this, I usually have whatever fabric I'm using. I will gather some fat quarters, or I always look for smaller pieces first that I can use before I, go into my stash. And so my cutting table is usually an organized mess. And during the process, the pieces that are too small to be folded and put back on the shelf usually just kind of go in a corner of my sewing table. And then after I'm done making all the blocks that I need, then I go back to that pile, and that's when I cut all of those pieces smaller to fit into my scrap system. So I'm looking for the bigger pieces first. If I can get a 5-inch square, which for for this project, I think I got maybe a few, not too many. It's mostly smaller pieces, so I'm mostly getting 2.5 inch squares that are leftovers and 1.5 inch squares that are leftovers too. And then some of this really small pieces that might go to be making twine for my rug. And after that's done, this is all I have left over is these small pieces here. They're just little strips, and I can't even get 1.5 inches. This one looks like it could be, but it's not. It's just shy of 1.5, so I can't use that there. So I think I'm gonna make a few string blocks where you sew it to a foundation. So that's all the pile that's left from that. And now this project is fast-tracked now to move forward. This is the one that is going to be at the top of my to-do list now. And I'll show you a few more things that I'm working on too. At this moment in time, I do not have a quilt that I'm hand quilting in the mornings, mainly because it's been July and it's been very hot. And it's not unusual for me to kind of slow down a little bit, or especially on the hand quilting in the hotter months. It's just too hot to have a quilt on your lap, even first thing in the morning. Our humidity levels here in this part of the country too are very high. When I wake up in the morning, it's usually ranges between 92 and 96% humidity. That's with that, it's not raining. That's just the moisture that's in the air in addition to the heat. And I know we're not alone. If you live on the East Coast here in the United States, you understand what I'm talking about. It's very unpleasant. So that's why my hand quilting has slowed down now. But I'm still doing some handwork. And this is one of the things that I'm working on now. This is an embroidery kit that Pam got for me last year for my birthday. So I just picked up all of the embroidery floss that is required to do this kit. And that's the thing that was kind of slowing me down. I kind of wanted to have all the floss in the beginning so that I had enough to do the whole kit. So I think last week I showed you, I had one of these blocks finished. And so this week, this probably took me about 4 days to do another block. So I've just been doing a little bit on this each morning, just as a nice calm way to start my day. I do like to start my day with some hand stitching. So somebody asked about the pattern too. This is a Jack Dempsey needle art pattern, and the title is just called Blue Floral, and it's number 732-706, and this is what the cover looks like. In case you're interested, I'm sure there are a lot more patterns too from this company. But this has just been a really nice way, it's like I said, it's just nice and quiet and relaxing in the morning to start my day. This is not going to be a high priority project. When I work on something like this with embroidery, I sort of do this as the mood strikes, and if I kind of have a little bit of time in between projects, or sometimes I do just feel like doing embroidery, so I'll just pick this up then. So, but this isn't going to be finished this year at all. Maybe next year, we'll see. And speaking of embroidery, I have a big stack here. Again, if you've watched some of the more recent videos, I made a Dresden plate quilt for one of my friends, and when she came to pick up the pillow and the quilt, she also came bearing gifts. If you remember, she gave me a lot of boxes that belonged to her grandmother, that had projects that had been cut out but not really started. Most of them are applique. And so I still have most of those. And then, so she said when they were cleaning some more things out, they came across these really beautiful embroidered pillowcases. They're gorgeous. So she knew that I would really love them, and I really do. So there's two of each of these motifs. So I'll show you the motifs. They're all really beautiful. So there are two of this one. And there are two of this one. That's the second one. And two of these beautiful little bluebirds. And this one has a little bit of a scalloped edge on the bottom. They're all just so pretty. And this one too. There are two of these. So I did ask her if she would be upset if I cut these up to put them in quilts, and she said she has no problem with that at all. So I think that's what I'm going to do, because just being used just as pillowcases, most of the time, honestly, most of the time they would just be stuck in a drawer, hiding away. But if I put them in a quilt, I think for myself especially, I'm more likely to use it and see it and love it and enjoy it. So I think that it's going to be cut up and keep all of these panels intact as a unit. So I'm very thrilled about these. So I have a few other projects that I picked up and I started. And the reason that these came into being, that they now have a life, is because I didn't have my ruler to square up my blocks. I was waiting to get it back from CJ. So what is a quilter supposed to do when they get stuck? You have to start something else. I think that's the rule. You have to start something else. So I did. I was sitting, oh, I know. I have boxes. I have my scraps organized in lots and lots of different places. This is one of the boxes that I have for a specific size square. These are all 3.5-inch squares in here, and as you can see, it's getting pretty full. And my theory about scraps is keep them in a smaller place and don't let them overflow. So when this gets full, I make myself do something with them, and that way things kind of keep flowing through my sewing room. I don't get overwhelmed. When I see a need to clear something out, I will make something with them. So this was the box I attacked this week. And I'll show you what, I don't know how this popped into my head. Oh, wait, yes I do. The last video we had, the quilt that I had hanging on the door behind me was an orange peel quilt, and it had prairie points all around the outside of it. And so I started thinking about, what if they don't have to be made out of triangles? They could be made out of anything, really. So I did an experiment, and here's my experiment. I'm going to put these, actually I don't think I'm even going to put these on the outside edge of a quilt. I think I'm going to put them on an inside border. That's what I'm thinking now. The quilt that they're going to go on has not happened yet, but when it does, I'm going to be ready. So what I did was, these are 3.5-inch squares. I took one white and one printed, and I drew a circle on here. I found something that pretty much fits this shape, and then I just sewed around it. And then I just cut the circle. Well, first of all, I trimmed off all these corners so that now it will look like this. And then I just lined it up on my cutting mat the best I could so that I could get it about halfway, and I just sliced it in half. That's all I did. And then I turned them inside out, and this is my prototype. So out of each circle, I get 2 of these, and I'm going to attach them in a similar way to with how I do the prairie points. These I'm just going to tuck into the seam as I sew my binding or my borders on. So it will look something like this then. I think that'll be really cute. I think it will be, right? This is my first time doing this. So this is just an experiment for me. On the back of it, I have white because I don't know what quilt any of this will end up on. And so I thought if I use a white border, the white on the back will be fine. And I started off with using actually all of the blues that were in my box, because I thought maybe I could put it on my blue triangle quilt. I'm gonna see. I mean, if I can, I will. I just have to see how big the quilt is going to end up being, because the border is going to have to be wide enough to be able to handle these little shapes going in the border too. So all of this is a first time experiment for me, and I think it's going to work. When I was working on this too, the other thought that I had was I could even put like a little bit of batting in here to give it maybe a little bit more structure, so that when it goes through the wash it won't flop around as much. I think if there's like just a little bit of something in there, but if I did that, I would try and stay away from the seam area, because I wouldn't want to sew the batting also into the seam of a border. I think that would be way too heavy. So I think if I just put a little bit in at the top, just to kind of stuff them a little bit. I mean, I think polyfill might work too, but I have a lot of extra batting, so that's probably what I would do. I would probably just roughly trace this on a little template of some sort, and then just start cutting some batting pieces. So that's my thought process on that. After I got all the blues done, I still didn't have my ruler back. I still needed something to sew. So I started going for the reds too. So these could be for another quilt at some point. And actually I think I might, I mean, I just did some reds also. So I think maybe another quilt wouldn't be like just reds, but that's all the further I got right now. I think maybe another one, I think I would go through my box and just pick out a variety of scraps in there, because I think that would be really cool too. And this is the stack I have for my blues, and I think this might be enough for a quilt, because each one of these circles is going to make 2 of these shapes. So, and once you start laying them out side by side, it's going to go around the quilt pretty quickly, I think. So that's my other little impulsive project, and I have more, but we'll go into the basting room for that one. And the last little bit of impulsive trouble I got myself into while waiting for the ruler from CJ was I went into my drawer of 2.5-inch squares, and when that needs to be cleaned out, I sort my colors by fabrics and I look to see which stacks are the highest, what do I have the most of. And this time it was pinks and purples that I had the most of. So I just started sewing things together. I just started making 4 patches and making 4 patches and making 4 patches, and then sewing them together in these 16 patch blocks here. So when I got a few of these together, I thought they kind of needed an alternate block to go with them. So I have these little 9 patches that I've had these for years, that at one point, in order to use up my scraps, I just made little 9 patches. And so they've been sitting in a box forever. And I just came across them maybe, I don't know, 4 months or 5 months ago. And I thought, I need to get them out, because if I see them, I'm more likely to use them. An idea will come to me. And I'm glad I got them out, because I think this is a really perfect project to use up some of these. I didn't use up enough of them, but some of them now are going to find a new home. So let me lay these down and I'll show you what this looks like, and I'll tell you more about where this quilt is going. Okay, so this is what it looks like all laid out here. I have no plans for this quilt to keep this at all. So I was speaking to my sister about this. I mentioned her before. She lives in Georgia and she belongs to a quilt guild who's very active in charity quilts. They work with some really great organizations. And so I kind of showed her what I had, and I asked her like what size would be a good size for the charity quilts. And so she said this size that I have right here is going to be perfect. So I'm just going to make the top, and that's it. And then when I get enough of these tops together for charity quilts, I'll just mail them to her all at once. I already have a green quilt top. If you remember, it's right here. I'll show you quick. This one I had made by clearing out all of my green squares out of my drawer. And so this is going to be going to go to her too for a charity quilt. So this is number 1. This will be number 2. And I don't make them you know, like intentionally thinking I need to make 4 quilts. It's just basically as they happen, as I'm cleaning out my scraps, as I'm trying to keep my room organized. When I do get something like this, then it will go into a pile where I'll save it until I get at least 4 tops. While I was making the 16 patches for this, I also made some. These are also mostly pinks and purples, but they're a little bit darker in these piles than they are there. And I have just as many of these as I have in this quilt of the 16 patches. So I really just got this one, the alternate blocks, made yesterday. So now I'm thinking about what kind of alternate block I would want for this, because then I would have another quilt this same size made out of these blocks and an alternating block. So I haven't really given it much thought yet since I just finished this. And again, I couldn't really sew these together yet because I didn't have my ruler. I have a lot of squaring up to do, a lot. I need my ruler. So all of these have to be squared up. I can join them together then, and this should be a top. And this one, I'm still thinking about. I want it to be something simple so that I can get a top done, and it sort of kind of clears it out of my mind too, if you know what I mean. Like it's these, you know, I started off with a purpose to like use these pinks and purples and to clear them out. So I just kind of want this process to keep moving along so that I can get to other things that are a higher priority for me. So I'm just gonna sleep on it a little bit and think about it. And then I don't know. We'll see where I go with it. But I just know it's going to be something simple. So for now, I have some squaring up to do, and I have a quilt top to put together here. And then I also have my blue triangles to square up and put that top together too. So that's on my agenda for next week. So our weather has cooled down a little bit here, and as you can see, I've been busy in my sewing room. It's actually been very pleasant, even with the iron going. It's not bad at all right now. But we're still in August, so you know, it's summertime. We could get another heat wave, I don't know. But it felt really good this week to get this much work done after having like a lazy week before, just kind of melting in the heat. So I hope wherever you are, I hope your weather is also cooperating with you and you're having a nice summer. So until next time, I'll see you later, and happy quilting. Bye.